Andrew Mackenzie.
Yeah, I'm back.
You're back, buddy.
I'm back,
it's
buddy.
honest. It's so good to have you back, man.
Yeah.
So good.
It's good to be back, man.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a tough time, but
well,
we're here.
That's
we
it.
made it.
That's
so,
it. We're out the other side. Life sucks sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
And I can definitely say this where I as the host of the show, it was really awkward not having you sit in the chair.
Yeah. Looked awkward editing it, bro.
I bet it did. I bet it was awkward AF.
Yeah.
as the young kids would say. I've got grey in my beard, so that counts as
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
But yeah, so no, really cool to have you back, man.
Yeah,
and
good.
it's really, really cool. Just kind of be full team, full steam, which
Yeah,
is good.
yeah.
Anyway, how's the week been?
Yeah, pretty good so far. I've been trying to get a job, so
Nice.
so I've been to a couple interviews and stuff, and so everything's looking up now. So
good. That's cool, man. That's cool. Michael Botur.
Yeah, the man himself.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Multi-skilled.
I know, multifaceted, man of many literary disciplines.
Yeah.
What a really interesting chat with him.
Yeah. Well, I'd worked with him before.
Yep.
I'd performed for him before. I'd opened for some of his events and stuff, so I knew him quite well. But I still learnt a lot about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even being a guy that I've known for 3 years as a mate.
Yeah.
So much stuff that I still.
Yeah.
I didn't know. He's just telling it. I'm just sitting there going, we've never talked about this. And how have we never talked about it? So, just so interesting. I mean, what are the listeners and viewers? What do you think some of the really interesting points are going to be for them?
I think his depth of knowledge and his ability to recall what actually influences him and stuff is going to blow people away,
Yeah, for sure.
Also, the kind of journey he's been on himself, just a lot of the things he talked about.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I never knew you'd been in that kind of situation before, sort of thing.
Exactly.
So, it was really cool to kind of not just scratch the surface with Mike for once.
Yeah, you actually sit down. We have a real deep and meaningful conversation with him.
And it kind of plays into how he performs. Like when I'd watched him do his improv, you now see where he draws from a lot more. So
absolutely. Very, very true. I think for me it was just sort of learning those little extra bits and pieces, like his time in England. I didn't really know about that. Or his first being published in the in that little magazine in Dunedin. I thought that was really cool, and the story he tells of that is also really awesome as well.
Sure, man.
Yeah. So, without further ado, let's sit down and have a conversation with Michael Botur. Oh man. Okay, well, where do we even start? Michael Botur, welcome to the Northland Artist Conversations. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. And I guess for the people that are going to watch and listen, we probably should give them a little bit of a context, because you and I have known each other for how long now? Is it 2, 3, 4 years?
It's a solid 3 years and just over. Yep.
Yeah. So, obviously, you and I sort of became friends through our kids, who also happen to be friends as well. And then we just realised we were both creatives and shared the love of the movie geekdom and some awesome prog metal bands. I see our mutual friend Shane Evans posted something on Facebook about most overrated band, and he put Tool. So I had to put after that blasphemy.
That is blasphemy.
That is blasphemy. Shane Evans.
The hell, Shane? We're coming for you, Shane.
That's it. Shane Evans, that is blasphemy. So obviously you were kind of in the very early stages of setting this up. I kind of reached out to you and asked for a little bit of help, and you were really good. You gave me a little bit of guidance, which was really, really nice. And we were sort of able to build and grow out from there. So to have you on quite early on in the piece, for me, was really important. Much like the Fox Levine, who will be that podcast goes live this Thursday, which will be the 23rd of June, Fox was involved in the artwork. So you being involved and you being a mate is also super important as well. So thank you for taking the time to actually come in and sit down with us. Now, obviously, you and I known each other for a while, so I know a lot of your backstory already. But I am very, very curious to know. You're originally from Christchurch, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
So go Canterbury.
Yeah.
Go Canterbury. Go Crusaders.
Hell yeah. Smashing Auckland.
Yeah, exactly. But where did your actual journey into writing and journalism start? Was that in high school? Did you start writing before that? What was the actual? Can you remember the impetus that actually set you on your journey?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, so I'm 38 now. So I was born in 1984.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Christchurch, and my whānau, my parents are both British, and they're kind of, to be honest, it's fair to say, like middle class. They come from a household where you can afford to have books. So growing up,
Yep.
the house was full of books.
Yep.
And back then, in the 90s, there was far less on TV, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And so books filled the void. And back then, you know, your Michael Crichton, your Stephen King, your Dean Koontz, your Tom Clancy.
Yeah, sure.
That was where a young man found his entertainment, because there wasn't as good stuff on TV.
Yeah.
And if you missed the slot seeing it on TV, then you might not encounter
Yeah,
it.
because there was no streaming or binging. I think VCRs had kind of come out around about that point, but they were still quite expensive. Yeah, God, who doesn't remember VCRs? So what were the sort of early authors that your parents had in the house that you gravitated towards?
Yeah, so I'll name the authors and then I'll tell you how I dropped away from reading and writing for a bit and then came back to it with a vengeance.
Yeah, please do.
So some of the people that got me really excited were I stumbled across John Grisham, you know, the Firm, The Client, The Pelican Brief, and all
the
that.
Rainmaker and all those sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Time to Kill. Yep.
Rainmaker, Time to Kill.
Yep.
Yeah, they deserve to die.
Yeah.
But we digress.
Yeah, that's going to happen a lot.
So I was in the brainy class at school, and they encouraged us to read, and so John Grisham knows how to put together a good thriller.
Yeah.
Then I had this friend, Joel Hawes. He loved The Simpsons, he loved The X-Files, he loved The Critic, and he put me onto Michael Crichton. And the stuff in Michael Crichton's books really, fascinating stories that really get you excited, right?
Now, Michael Crichton, he wrote... What are some of the more well-known novels that he wrote?
I'll try and name 10, and hopefully these 10 have all been made into films, and they're all wholly original and extremely exciting. Michael Crichton wrote The Andromeda Strain,
Yes.
The 13th Warrior,
And
Jurassic
Banderas.
Park.
Jurassic Park, right.
The Lost
Cool.
World,
Yep.
Congo, Sphere.
Sphere.
He just keeps going and going. He wrote an anti-climate change book, which kind of flattened his career
Okay,
briefly.
right, yeah, for a little while.
Michael Crichton wrote one called Timeline.
Now Timeline.
they did a
That
Timeline
is
movie?
Gerard Butler and I think Paul Walker in it.
Airframe. So Michael Crichton, man, he really had some very exciting stories in his books. Just terrific book after terrific book. So when I was a teenager, read a bunch of novels. And then I got too cool when I was like 17, 18, 19, and my reading dipped.
Yep.
Luckily kind of steered it back towards getting into writing when... Like, I was a little psycho. I was into vandalism and fighting and drinking drugs and partying too hard, right? And one of the books that sort of steered me back towards reading again was a biography about Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber.
Wow.
So it sort of reminded me how much I love true crime and how fascinating that can be.
Yeah.
And after that, I moved to England, and like I say, I was being all crazy and self-destructive. Found Trainspotting at the library, and Trainspotting changed my life. It's rock and roll in literary form.
Yeah.
Read Trainspotting, read Once Were Warriors, read A Clockwork Orange, read Hubert Selby Jr., Requiem for a Dream. And those books really changed my attitude. So when I came back to New Zealand, started studying poetry and literature and creative writing at uni, and eventually got into creative writing. And everyone I was competing with, almost everyone in my class was better than me, and everyone I was competing with eventually dropped away, and I just kept going and going with the creative writing.
Yeah, sure.
Then stumbled across people who inspired me, and that combination of the competition dropping away and being inspired by really amazing people who we'll talk about soon led me to be here creating good stuff right now.
Wow, that's I didn't know that. That is actually really amazing. So you're in England and you've kind of discovered all these amazing books. Irvine Welsh, is it Irvine Welsh? Irvine Welsh, Ellen Duff, Requiem for a Dream, and all of these other amazing books. And then what brings you back to New Zealand?
Well, I drank away all my money in Britain.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I was working in pubs and stuff, but they only pay you a small wage, so my savings were being eroded.
Mm-hmm.
And also I hadn't had. I guess I had friends over there and lots of flings and fooling around with the ladies, but no solid relationships, no partner,
nothing meaningful.
Yeah, and so I came back and I kind of went through a middling phase where all I wore was black, like leather, black jeans, Doc Martens, and rock and roll t-shirts. I wouldn't leave the house without a fresh Tenacious D shirt or a Tool shirt or a live Days of the New.
Some kind of band shirt.
A band shirt. Had to be a band shirt. This is in Dunedin, studying at Otago Uni.
Yeah.
And after a couple of years of being quiet and experimenting with vegetarianism and stuff, I started from 2005. I started publishing creative writing and having a go at it.
When you started that initial phase of sort of publishing, are we sort of talking about just publishing on the internet, or are we talking as part of short story compilations? What are those initial published works look like?
Yeah, good question. So bear in mind 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
It's a turning point for me personally, and it's also a turning point for when fewer things were becoming in print and the internet was really starting to take off.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So, my first few forays into print. 1, getting a poem into Critic, which is the Otago Uni student magazine.
Okay, yep.
And that makes you feel like a spotlight is on you. It's like, you worry about how people are responding to your poem, but you're secretly really proud. It's very thrilling.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I guess many thousands of copies of that student mag get printed each week, so that's pretty thrilling.
Yeah, definitely.
And then this local fold-up zine, I got really into zines, and this local fold-up zine that it was called Fink. This is in Dunedin, 2004, 05. A local coffee company paid for Fink to be created, and it had gig listings in it. And I really wanted to be a cartoonist, and some of my cartoons were in there, but I got second in this very short story competition.
Right, okay, yep.
The guy who got it first has gone on to become somewhat of a rival, but we'll talk about that later.
We'll touch on those sorts of things. So
he's dead now, but
okay.
Anyway, after that, a couple more poems in the student mag, and then there was a golden age of New Zealand literary magazines. There were print publications that were these dimensions and this thick or thin.
Yeah.
And they would send you a very small check. We're talking $40 as a big payment or $20 as an average payment for a poem or a story.
Yeah.
And started off with the very short stuff like poetry or short pieces of fiction, and then you dare yourself to go up to 1,000 words, and then you send them a 1,500 word story, and if you're very lucky, they'll print a 2,000 word story.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so between we're talking 2005 to 2008 was a real formative period where I was really lucky to take those risks. Plenty of rejections, but man, every time they sent me, even $20 felt really good.
Yeah.
Back then, and it was more about an editor likes your stuff, so someone is giving it their seal of approval and saying you're a competent writer. You can be amongst these other 40 good writers.
Yeah. When you started off, was it more poems or short stories?
Yeah.
And then how did you evolve into, obviously we're going to talk about these books a bit later on, but how did you make that sort of natural transition? Because if you're comfortable writing poems and short stories, could you fall into that trap of just staying there, or did you want to push yourself?
So the missing thing, which I haven't explained, is I really want to be a rock star, right? I'm obsessed with music.
Yes.
We've got the gene, right? We've both got, bands tattooed on us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I really wanted to be a rock star, but I was too shy to get behind a mic other than to do poetry, mostly looking down, mumbling.
Right. Okay.
Reading off a script. Not looking the audience in the eye.
So
not with music.
Kind of like Jim Morrison, like really early on when he started with the Doors, because he actually used to have his back to the audience. And he would just sort of feel the thing, and then there was a pivotal moment for him where he just turned around and engaged with the audience and kind of went from there. Are we sort of thinking something similar? Yeah,
and on that note, the most famous biography of Jim Morrison, No One Here Gets Out Alive, I read that bio. I read rock bio after rock bio, and they all made me think, the front man usually doesn't have to play, sometimes doesn't have to play an instrument.
Yep.
And he's the most literate person. He or she, of course, or they, is usually the most literate person in the musical act. But I had 2 jams with some musicians in Dunedin, and
wow.
Yeah, like I got behind a mic and gave it a go, but I just couldn't. I didn't have the guts, basically.
Okay.
And but what I did do was carry on writing poems/lyrics.
Yeah.
I didn't actually give the lyrics to a musical artist, which looking back would have made sense.
Yep.
And I wasn't listening to enough hip hop, enough rap back then. Otherwise, I would have been highly inclined to go down that path. I only really got into rap from like 2008 when I was like approaching 30. That's another story.
So how would you describe your? So interesting question. You've just said that you are someone who's really into rock and metal, right? We both are. And then you've just mentioned that you wish you'd have gotten into rap. Is that because your poetry style or your lyrical writing style kind of lends itself towards the colour and the versing and the shaping of lyrics in hip-hop music?
Sort of, but it's more about the manliness of it, I think.
Right.
So firstly, later on, got really into hip-hop because in Auckland, did a master's in creative writing and hung out with poets. And poets were my best friends from like 2008 to 2015, basically, in Auckland, heavily immersed in the poetry scene.
Yeah.
And one particular guy there called Shane Hollins, he's a big risk taker with like getting up on stage and performing. He's got really good taste. And on his radio show, he would play stuff like Sage Francis, Aesop Rock. He would play Saul Williams, Gil Scott Heron, really, really daring, really interesting. What they call conscious rap. He'd play a lot of conscious rap.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah. So I was really into that. But when I say the manliness, then later on, I sort of rediscovered your Eminem and your D12 and your Tupac, and just discovered that they got a real nice balance. You can be a man, like you can shout out misogynist kind of aggressive things, and you can just vent.
Sure. Yep.
And it's really cool, and it sounds beautiful, and the wordplay is clever, and it makes you feel powerful. And that's how metal makes you feel too. Yeah. Makes you feel powerful.
When you're talking about how, for me, when I always think of like really good hip hop, I always think of Notorious B.I.G.'s Hypnotize, because the word flow and the word play and all of that is just absolutely fascinating. And obviously Andrew, the editor for the podcast, is in OBC, which is a hip hop collective local. Shout out to OBC, very cool. That's right, raise the roof, buddy. So you're immersed in this dense poetry world for 4-5 years essentially. You come out of the other side of that, And then what does 2013 onwards sort of present to you?
Oh yeah, because sorry, you were asking before, how'd you go from wannabe rock star, making poetry and lyrics to writing the longer stuff and managing to get through novels and whole collections.
Mm-hmm.
So with that poetry scene, there's no money at stake.
Yeah.
Yet people are incredibly competitive just for the mana, just for the esteem of really owning a stage and really controlling a room.
Yep.
Same reason that Andrew here and the OBC boys love performing. They love turning heads. They love entertaining people.
Mm-hmm.
They love being the center of attention. They love their pure creativity getting a response. So it's the same thing with the stand-up poetry and the slam poetry.
Right. Yep.
But the thing is, I've just said there's no money in it.
Yep.
You can't sustain it forever. And it's really draining. Memorizing a whole song or a rap or a poem is draining. And it takes it out of you. And after enough nights on stage, you can maintain it for years, but eventually it's going to wear you down. You're going to ask, man, is this... there's got to be an easier way to get my words in front of people. Well, guess what? There is.
Yes.
Start writing longer and longer things and take risks. So, I started... setting my stuff out, and I mentioned some word counts before. So I moved on from publishing 2,000 or 2,500 word stories, and next thing you know, you're taking a risk with 3,000 word stuff. Dropped acid one night and wrote 5,000 words. And you experiment with various intoxicants and find out whether they help or hinder, and it's, to be honest, it's somewhere in between.
Okay, right, yep.
And me and Sarah, the wife, we were incredibly poor, which raised the question, what is your art worth? If it's not immediately making you money, is it making your life better? Mm-hmm. And so being like working poor in Auckland and having all of our dollars go out of our hands by the end of the week, and a meal out being Domino's pizza, that makes you really appreciate your art. And just by being purely creative, often it doesn't cost much, and it gets you out of the grimy reality of that hand-to-mouth thing. But eventually won a few competitions and a few prizes, and some of the people hosting awards and prizes and publications and competitions, some of them were probably real generous, and they had the generosity to look at my money look at my work sympathetically. And then one time I got I think my biggest check, it was for I think $2,500. I got second in this competition called the Kiwi Short Story Competition. That back then, $2,500 was a couple of weeks' pay.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And that was a bit of a turning point.
That's pretty cool. I mean, and you've talked about the sort of the hardships of living in that pure creative segment. Was there anything that you were doing to kind of fund your ability to be creative? So, say for example, I have a full-time job. This for me is a real passion project. If I could be a full-time creative, I would absolutely love to be. But was there anything sort of along those lines for you? Were you sort of just purely living in that creative space, or did you have like a 9 to 5, a 10 to 3? How were you making sort of ends meet?
All of my money from the various jobs that I had went into the Domino's pizza and the rent and the cheapest beer from the supermarket. And we didn't have kids till 2011, but obviously that made money even tighter. But fiction writing is good to stick with because it costs next to nothing.
Of course.
You don't even need a surface to write on sometimes. If you can if you're out jogging or walking and something that's important to one of your stories comes into your head, if you like repeat it and over to yourself, sort of mumble to yourself on the street 10 or 20 times, it'll sink into your head. So and you can write with notes on your phone. You can write on the back of a supermarket receipt. You can write on your hand as
you've done.
So it costs you next to nothing, and you can write stories on a train, which I did many days. You can write stories in a car on a laptop if someone else is driving. You can Skype off work and write at work. You can email yourself notes. So writing is a real versatile creative medium.
And I guess because it's really, like when you're in a band, you kind of, you practice in a practice space, for example, and you're a group of people, or you kind of rehearse. Like, you can't essentially take a guitar with your electric guitar with you on the train while you're trying to chunk out the latest death metal riff for whatever song that you're writing. And I think, as you said, the ability to write on anything and the ability to use technology as well would also sort of help speed up that workflow process. Having transitioned across into having decided to stick with writing, like long form writing, what does the process look for you like now compared to what it was when you first really decided to give it a crack?
Oh, I've got so much more. And for anyone out there, hopefully there's some people watching this that want to know what it's like to start writing more and more. It's exactly like learning to run a marathon. So your tolerance for how long you can sit at a computer, or how long you can go without getting paid, or how thankless it can be, your tolerance for all that gets longer and longer.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because at the start, it's painful to sit there at a desk with no one appreciating you, no one caring about you, and having no reputation in the craft, and not even feeling confident in yourself. At the first, there are so many reasons to not do it, but you get more and more into it, and you learn about what Stephen Pressfield, who's this, he's a philosopher about art. What Stephen Pressfield calls the war of art, and resistance. He's obsessed with resistance. So you learn that you're pressing against the world,
yes,
and the world is pressing against you, and you learn to get used to that and make beautiful things out of it. And resistance is the reason I mentioned marathons. Is what could be harder than a marathon, and what could be more impossible to do on the first attempt than a marathon.
Absolutely.
Yet how many, like literally probably 1 million people run a marathon around the world every year. Absolutely. So you can do these things, and you just slowly train yourself to build up your tolerance. So learning to build up towards writing a novel is very similar to the marathon thing. And it's building up your tolerance for the thanklessness of it all, which is cool because you get really big payoffs. Before I forget to use this metaphor, almost on a daily basis, I have this thought. The satisfaction of creative writing is like an extremely mild drug. Fentanyl has got to be the world's strongest drug.
Yes.
Morphine's here, weed's here. What's milder? I don't know, tramadol somewhere around here. Think of something that's a little bit above zero, an extremely mild drug, but it's a clean drug, it's a harmless drug, it's a drug that people will congratulate you for taking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you learn to stick with the art and get that nice, beautiful little drug release. Endorphins I'm talking about, of course.
And the endorphins. Cool. Northland Artist Conversation proudly supports 1737. 1737 are a free service that you can contact either via phone or text message. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On their website, 1737.org.nz, they say, are you feeling stressed or just need to talk to someone? Are you feeling down or a bit overwhelmed? Do you know someone who is feeling out of sorts? Whatever it is, they're there for you. Free call or free text, anytime, 24 hours a day. And you'll get to talk with a trained counsellor or talk with a peer support worker. Their service is completely free. They offer brief one-on-one counselling support sessions for those people that need it a little bit more than normal. Please do not be afraid to reach out if you need support or if you know someone else that needs support as well. 1737 are a fantastic service, and we here at the Northland Artist Conversation are very, very proud to support what they do. 1737, free text or free call. So you move into full-length writing, and for you that becomes sort of your main work, or the main creative output that you have. And you kind of continue on that journey. Now, what was the first full-length book that you actually released?
Yeah, define released.
Self-published.
Yeah. So in fact, my kids saw that in my books. There's a bibliography, a list of everything I've written.
Sure.
My kids were looking at that overnight, and Violet said to me, "Hot Bible, what's that?" So Hot Bible was the name of the first short story collection that I got together a few months after first reading about Amazon print on demand probably read about it in 2011 or 2012, but the way I remember it is that I released Hot Bible in maybe late 2012 or start of 2013.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't heard about this revolution that was sweeping the world, print on demand. You upload, if you're a self-published author, you upload your stuff to Amazon and you can print 1 copy if you want or 1,000 copies if you want.
Wow.
So they're not sitting in a warehouse somewhere. And that revolutionized the whole industry, and money was... Like all the money in the publishing industry was disappearing back then, so people had to be really creative about how to make money
definitely, absolutely.
But before I forget to talk about it, I will gladly talk about my artistic failures all day long, every day, because they've made me who I am. No one is successful all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before the first books, which started turning heads, it was actually my second book called Mean that started getting good reviews and started turning a few heads. But yeah, when I was at writing school, 2008, 2009, 2010, I think I wrote 2 novels that were shared with people that they were the best I could do then, but they were kind of shit.
Okay, right.
And I think some of my friends told me they were shit in kinder words.
No,
and that's fine. It's throat clearing is a good metaphor for it, because you can't create great stuff until you can't say the best words until you've cleared your throat of the crap.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
There are people who write brilliant stuff from the get-go, but it's not very realistic that it works out that way. In fact, scratch the surface of many of the authors or musicians that you love.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably standing on a mountain of failure that you've never heard about.
Yeah.
Because they never get to talk about it or they never admit it. And all you see is the thing that works, the success.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll gladly, I could talk for days and days about all my failures and all the bad writing and all the embarrassments. But yeah, that stuff drops away and it's like, I don't know, pan and gold or something.
Yeah. So pan and gold's a really good analogy too, because eventually, you kind of sift through the mud and the gross rock, and eventually these little nuggets are hopefully still going to be in the pan. Now I know that you've written and self-published quite a few novels. Now, we've also got a couple here which are really, really cool. Now, they're both books of short stories, but very, very different in tone and content. Talk to me about Hell of a Thing first, because that was quite a big mark for you, wasn't it? That was because that's internationally published, is that right?
Yeah. So it's 12 books in total, and I think it's fair to say 2/3 of them self-published.
Yeah.
So like 5 short story collections, and my children's book, My Animal Family, that's self-published. My pub poetry book called Loudmouth, that's self-published.
That's a great book.
Thanks.
That's a great book.
So Hell of a Thing. So I studied journalism in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And at the local Pukekohe library, there were collections of long-form journalism by Mike Sager. And he writes about rock and roll, and he writes about fuck-ups, and he interviews Rodney King, Kobe Bryant, Todd Marinovich, Roseanne Barr, David Duchovny.
Vince Neil from Motley Crue. Yeah, he's mates with Ice Cube. Yep.
So Mike Sager, he was friendly enough when I wrote him fan mail at first. This was would have been 2013, 2014. Wrote him and told him how much I loved his journalism.
Yeah, nice.
And then, luckily enough, 5 years later, we got the first conversations going over email because he's based out of San Diego, California.
Yeah, yep.
the first conversations going about publishing with him. Because a couple of years before he'd set up a publishing company, and I was lucky enough to get him to publish Hell of a Thing. I feel some of my best literary fiction short stories are in there.
Yep.
Published it during COVID.
Yeah.
Bad time to market a book.
Tough time.
Even worse than the bad time for the book was it made me lose self-confidence. I was terrified then. COVID was really scary because I didn't have much money and like supply chains were drying up.
Yeah.
So I take ownership of not marketing my book well enough. Anyway, at about the same time, first novel with a tiny New Zealand publisher called Rangitawa Publishing.
Yes.
The novel was called Crime Church. I put that out about the same time, out at about the same time. So bad idea to market two books at the same time, and bad idea to market during COVID.
Right. Now they're two very fundamentally different books, right? So you've got Crime Church, which is a full-length novel. What is Crime Church about?
It's about young men self-sabotaging. It explores 6 interconnected stories of young males trying to be the man in Christchurch and irritating other angry young men. And it's like a game of chicken. So the book asks the question of who's going to walk away first. The big sharks are going to eat the little minnows. What happens when you want to be a badass and you see your little brother following in your path and you want to protect him and get him out of that life?
Okay.
Which, God, man, American History X would have been a big influence on Crime Church.
Great film.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange, big influence.
Yeah, sure.
Train Spotting, the nihilism of the characters in Train Spotting, big influence.
Okay. And then we've got Hell of a Thing, which is 16 short stories.
Yeah.
What is there sort of an underlying theme throughout those short stories, or is it just like a sort of a random gathering?
I always crank the conflict up pretty high with my stories. You could say it's life or death, but life or death can for characters can mean losing the mortgage, losing custody of your kids, losing a relationship.
Yeah.
If you're extremely poor, losing your car.
Okay, right.
Going to jail, trying to go on the straight and narrow when you come out of jail.
Yeah.
So things about this. I love writing about what people do with drugs, how they handle drugs.
Okay.
Because it's such a big force in our world. I mentioned self-sabotaging before. I love exploring self-sabotage because that's something I've done with my life plenty of times, and I don't think I self-sabotage anymore, but there are periods of my life when I did heaps. And
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, with self-sabotage because, that's sort of one of those things that, as we sort of become more aware of mental health, and those sorts of issues from, say, 10, 15 years ago, that self-sabotage is often one of those things that kind of comes up quite a bit. So, really interesting. And then, obviously, you've got your latest book, The Devil Took Her. Now, I am a huge horror fan. Not so much Stephen King, but definitely Dean Koontz. I read Phantoms in one day. I was living in Masterton, working at McDonald's, and I'd picked up Phantoms from the library because a friend of mine had told me that it was a really, really good Dean Koontz book and I should read it. Sat down and read it before work. Called work on the landline phone and said, I'm not going to be in. I'm sick, and then finished that book. I think I started at like 8 in the morning and finished at like 10 at night. So horror, yes, love horror. So tell us about The Devil Took Her.
So I was on Radio New Zealand, I think 2 Sundays ago, and I had to explain to Lynn Freeman on Standing Room Only why make the transition from this genre called literary fiction over to horror.
Yeah, okay.
Now, last night I was listening to an inspirational Seth Godin audiobook about marketing your creativity.
Yeah.
And he was saying you should make an assertion with your with your artwork. So here it goes. My assertion is that this is some of the highest quality writing that you can get with horror, because often horror can be schlocky and you're just trying to press the reader's buttons with lots of blood and guts and gore.
Yeah.
There's really high quality stuff with really well drawn characters with really 2022 things going on in their lives. Lots of lived experience in there, so real relatable things, real relatable characters, lots of ethnic diversity, lots of realistic cultures in there, people talking in realistic ways.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, my point being, so I've gone from hard-hitting, gritty stories about realistic conflicts. I've just added a little bit of flavouring, a little bit of food colouring, a little dash of realistic horror. You can't put monsters in front of people immediately, but you can have characters who have been writing about monsters in their journals.
Yeah, sure.
And someone else discovers the journal.
Yep.
And someone else is like, what the hell is going on? Because this thing be real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about, who's that guy that directed Oculus? Mike Flanagan.
Yep.
He talks about how with successful horror, you have to get things playing in the theatre of the mind of the audience, of the person enjoying your work. So, and that requires subtlety. Yeah. That's why I mentioned like food colouring, like just a little dash.
Yep.
Instead of like, full on bombastic in their faces, just a nice little dash, and then you increase it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the person's own fears bloody come to life. And you can't do that without realistic characters saying realistic things and behaving realistically. So I like to think that this is great quality writing. Yeah.
So it's a compilation of short stories.
Yeah, 12 stories.
Okay.
We settled on.
So I mean, as a huge movie buff myself, is it something, I don't know if you're aware of the VHS compilation? There's a horror series called VHS. There's also the ABCs of Death.
Watch both of those. Yeah.
Is it something kind of along those lines where you've got those little short, VHS and ABCs of Death, they're very short, like mini movies, whereas those are sort of short stories. Every story is different, or are they connected and interlinked in any way?
Every story is different with zero linkage. Anthology is much more what it's akin to, because I love a good anthology. Here's something interesting before I forget to say. If you want to know like why my mind works as it does, I once had a kind of boring office job when I was on a computer all day long in Wellington, and when I would get bored, I would open up Wikipedia and I would read the synopses of episodes of The Outer Limits.
The old TV series, wow.
Yeah, and they brought it back in the 90s.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we talking Outer Limits in the 70s or 60s or 70s? Or are we talking Outer Limits in the 90s?
90s.
Wow.
Yeah, and that seems to have gone for about 5 seasons or something. And I know it's a little bit cheap and a little bit average, but I clearly remember, opening up Wikipedia and reading the synopses of these episodes. Mm-hmm. Before that, in the 90s, one of the things that kept me alive and made me most happy in the world was going to the X-Files website every week,
right,
and reading the 100-word log line about the episode that was going to come in the next week. And that would get something going in the theatre of the mind. Holy crap, I can't wait to see this. These 100 words have really tantalized me.
Oh, that's amazing. And it just goes to show the power of that, because that would have been internet in like the early days, is that right? So this is before like the internet is kind of, we all know it now. It's more, when animation on a web page was exciting and you're like, ooh, how did that happen?
When only 20% of Pam and Tommy would buffer.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. No awkward silence there. No, absolutely. So
not awkward over here.
So, but now you've also transitioned from gritty urban fiction through to manipulation of the mind horror to a kids author.
Yeah.
Now that is 3 diametrically opposed genres that have no connection apart from you and your name. And we've got the animal family here. Now this was done with you. But were the kids sort of involved in any of the writing or any of the planning behind that?
No, the kids were just
were there.
An excuse for me to keep going.
Yeah.
So my animal family, I like to think, was inspired by having an argument with Violet in the car when she was about 3 years old. Violet's my daughter.
Yeah.
And her saying, maybe I mentioned in passing, did you know humans are actually a type of animal? And she's like, no, they're not.
Yeah.
Honey, humans are definitely a type of animals. No, they're not. And
Yeah.
it made me remember when I was that age, mind being blown by the concept that human beings just fit into the animal kingdom and we're no better or no worse than a mite or a microbe or a blue whale, the largest creature that's ever lived.
Yeah.
And also I haven't talked much about illustration because I don't illustrate much these days, but it was an excuse to illustrate again.
Nice. Now, one of the things that's really fascinating about My Animal Family is that you often hold events that people can come and they can bring their kids, and what happens at these events? They draw, they read, they learn. What's it all about?
I read the book partly for the audience and partly for me and partly for my daughter. I'm going to drop off this planet someday. I'm going to die, and I want my daughter to carry on being inspired and being raised up to value a culture where we discuss science at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And we have meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
And our conversations don't sound like a conversation with Jason Gunn.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, meaningful, deep stuff. I want my kids to know about skeletons and bones and viruses and blood and history and how long this planet's been around for and what's going to happen to this planet 1 billion years from now.
Yeah.
That matters.
Now, on top... So, I mean, those events you kind of publish on Facebook, right? So if anyone's interested, where can they find you on social media so that when those events do pop up that they can express an interest in them?
My website is called nzshortstories.com.
Yes.
And there's a whole story behind that. In 2017, I got sick of relying on other publications and other websites and other platforms to publish me.
Yes.
Because they reject you and they turn you away half the time.
Yeah.
Probably more than half the time. I thought, no, I've got lots of great stories. I want to own these. I want to be in control of when people can read them.
Yeah, sure.
So I set up my own website. And it's had 10,000 hits now, so that's pretty cool.
That's nice. That's awesome.
10,000 visitors, and that was a nice benchmark to get to.
Yeah.
Took heaps of work. Had to teach myself how to work WordPress and all the rest of it. And
excellent.
Which is cool that you get really valuable skills. I got a well-paying day job right now because of teaching myself that stuff.
Yeah, brilliant.
So that's cool.
And social media, where can people find your work on social media? Because that's very important as well.
I'm a big Facebook user, so you can certainly find Michael Botur on Facebook if you can spell my name correctly, which most people can't.
Yeah, we'll put a link under my sort of mid-stomach sort of thing, so people will know where to find you. Now, how many of these events have you held?
4 poster workshop readings.
Nice. And how, moderate success, good success, how have they been going?
Define success. Success is making my daughter proud.
Okay.
So yeah.
Has your daughter been proud?
On Saturday and she's been at all of them to read the book to the audience.
Yeah.
The proudest moment for me, for her, for everyone in the room is I'll start reading this book and she'll grab it out of my hands and she'll take over the reading. So here's an 8-year-old performing to an audience.
Yeah.
And it's just, what could be better than that? So I really want literature to be part of her life. She goes on about wanting to be a lawyer. Violet is my daughter's name. I don't know if I've said her name. She goes on about wanting to be a lawyer. If she can be a great orator, awesome. If she can grow up knowing about science and morals and philosophy, awesome. If she can grow up with the guts to perform in front of other people, I'll be so proud, and I'll happily, as I say, leave this earth.
Yeah, nice.
Hand the reins over to her.
That's very cool. Now, the hell of a thing that came out during COVID, My Animal Family's been out for 6 months?
About December last year, I think.
December last year. The Devil Took Her, is that available now?
Oh, it's brand new. It's just come out, and these bad boys just arrived from... had to order this from Barnes & Noble yesterday, and they were a little bit pricey to get printed and sent, but it's a beautiful book. So it's just come out. If you want to read it, Kindle is the recommended place to get it. But you can get an EPUB off many, many platforms. So all you have to do is type the name into it and it'll pop up online for you.
Excellent, very cool. And so obviously with this being the latest book that you've got, is there anything in the works at the moment? Have you sort of started planning your next book or your next creative endeavour, and what's that going to look like?
Moneyland, which is a young adult sci-fi dystopian novel.
Yes.
That I self-published in 2017.
Excellent.
I ran a grueling booster campaign to pay to get copies printed and to get me over the finish line and to do some promo for it.
Yep.
And to photograph the cover. So I learned the hard way how to run a booster campaign, and baptism of fire, but I've come out the other side.
Awesome.
Moneyland is published has been taken on and just released by a publisher called Next Chapter Publishing, and I'm so proud of that. It's so cool. And like the first couple of people that have read it, because we just ironed out a couple of typos and that.
Yeah, sure.
They love it. It's cool. So it's got its audience, and I got a taste that it had an audience when I first released it.
Yeah.
It had a couple of people that criticised it for having. They were right to criticise it for the bad cover. My initial cover was. It lost people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so proud to see it out, and the publisher will get it on Audible, and I won't let them forget. Holy cow! Yeah, I can't wait for Audible. That'll be like a nice achievement. That'll be a nice mountain to have got over the top of. With art, there's mountains after mountains.
Yeah.
You keep going. All the artists that we love.
Yes.
They just keep going and going. They don't stop. They don't give up.
Never do. So it's going to be published on Audible. Audible being audiobook, right? Yep. Are you going to do the audiobook for it?
Only if they let me. They were talking about me selecting a professional to do it.
Okay, so that's fantastic.
It's got a female narrator, protagonist, so...
Who would be your top 2 dream choices to narrate it, if you could pick anyone?
H. John Benjamin? Archer? No, I kid. Bob's Burgers, H. John Benjamin?
Yes. Bob's Burgers, no.
I jest. Fudge, the guy who plays Cedric Daniels off The Wire. He's got a really gritty voice. All right, who's the guy that plays Gustavo Fring on Breaking Bad?
Oh, Giancarlo Esposito.
Fun, man. Good, nice one. Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito. Yeah, he's got a cool voice.
He's also on The Boys at the moment, which is currently screening.
That's right.
Giancarlo Esposito. He's got wonderful voice.
With a hint of menace.
Yeah, very subtle hint of menace. No, that's that'll be a huge get. That's really, really cool.
No, I think it has to be a woman to narrate Moneyland, because it's got a butt-kicking female hero. Hey, there's a great New Zealand professional. I could name her. I can name her price, though. I can't afford her price. I'd need to go and get a grant to pay her to do it. I just can't do that right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's cool. She's a professional. Maybe I should find a way to go back and talk to her, actually. She was really keen to do business. She's Blenheim-based, and she'd be ideal, actually.
Okay.
But I digress.
Yeah. So obviously with Moneyland having been picked up by a publisher, that's just a huge bonus, because is that a book that you would love to turn into like a series?
Yeah. In New Zealand, there are a number of biodome stories out in the world. It's a story about a biodome getting placed down over the suburbs and 12 teenagers who have to live off the damn suburbs, where most people don't grow their own food in their backyard anymore. So what is there to eat?
Yeah.
In our environment, what is there to eat when the food supply stops?
Yeah.
What's the phrase I'm looking for? The chain of everything being one day away from a supermarket.
When there's a supply chain breakdown.
Supply chain breakdown.
Yeah. Which is obviously what's sort of been happening throughout New Zealand. Interesting conversation with another artist that we had, where they were talking about how the war on the Ukraine has had a flow-on effect through to what they do, and I'm just completely blown away.
Damn.
Paper shortage. Paper shortage has been a worldwide shortage of paper because of the flow-on effect from the conflict that's going on in Ukraine at the moment. It's crazy.
Lauren Roach told you.
Yeah.
Respect Lauren Roach. She's a hard worker.
Yeah.
She's gone through some hard work in her life. Respect.
So, but those sorts of things are really, really interesting because, as someone who publishes actual physical books, not just digital or audio, those sorts of things can affect you as well, which I think is really important. So Moneyland has its... How many books deep is Moneyland? Is it just the one?
Two
books. So we've got Moneyland and...
The second one is called Payback.
Oh, right.
It's a little money pun right there.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, so far, man, there was... If you think your average thing that you write doesn't pay, spending a whole month drafting a sequel when the first one didn't really get off the ground, man, that is unpaid. But yeah, I can't believe I managed to write the second one, and now there's a publisher who's they've accepted the second one, and so yeah, they've got the first 2 out of 3 books in the series. I need to go and write the third.
I was about to say, you just said 2 out of 3.
Yeah, man. Yeah, trilogy. So it's the Lockdown Land trilogy, and Eden, our hero, gets stuck in another dome in the second one, and almost no one has read this. Moneyland did get a bunch of readers.
Yeah.
And people who pick it up tend to love it, especially women. Tends to be female readers because it's got a butt-kicking female heroine protagonist.
Absolutely, yeah. So the third book's not technically written, is it? It's written in the head, or is it outlined in the head?
The outline that I have, I'll probably throw away.
Okay, right.
It needs to be really, really good. I'm not having this thing flop like Alien 3.
Right. Yep. Fair enough.
What are the other bad third ones? Mad Max 3.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, Beyond Thunderdome was a good film. It was a good film. Tina Turner, great soundtrack. So the third one. Now you've obviously done 1 and 2, and then you kind of shifted your writing choices to other genres. Are you going to sit down and devote some time to a third one? And then if you do, will there be a box set? Because I love box sets.
Yeah, for sure. It's a privilege to have the opportunity where you've arranged things in your life where the world is offering you the privilege of writing the third book in a trilogy.
Yeah.
That's a long way from getting a poem printed in the student mag.
It is.
So yeah, it's an absolute privilege to have worked, all these years. All the bad shit that happens to you in an artistic career over the years, it's still a privilege. You are, any artist is lucky that they don't have to mine coal in northern Pakistan for $1 a week. You know, we're incredibly privileged even on a bad day.
So let's talk about that, because you have something that you're quite passionate about, and that is Art Saves Lives?
Art Saves Lives.
Talk about that, because that sounds like something that's really important.
So it's a phrase that occasionally you'll see on a printed on a mug or a meme or something. Look, one of the we mentioned Tool and Maynard James Keenan right at the start, and when Tool came to New Zealand in 96 or 98, I'm reading a copy of Tearaway magazine.
Yes,
nostalgia.
Tearaway.
The young journalist is interviewing Maynard James Keenan. Maynard's being rude, of course, because he's a prick. He's a rude person. And the interviewer, at the end of getting through this difficult interview with Maynard James Keenan, says to him, "Hey, any final parting words?" And he says, "Yep, art saves lives." And so I've remembered that all these years. And you can use that little phrase, that little mantra, however you want. I got the guy from Cripple Mr. Onion, Jesse, is that his name? What's the name I'm looking for?
The singer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. I remember Renee, the bass player, but yeah, I think it's Jesse.
Oh, sorry, might be Renee. The dude from Cripple Mr. Onion, they ran a tattoo shop in Three Kings.
That's Renee.
Where I lived on Big King. Sorry, yep. Renee. Yep. So he tattooed me, and he dated my friend, but that's another story. Maybe that's the whole story. Maybe that's the rest of this interview. So I got him to tattoo Art Saves Lives on my back. When I had a few bucks, when I was taking artistic risks, running a magazine called Renegade House with a guy who was even bigger risk taker than me, Clinton Cardozo, respect, big risk taker, put himself on the line. He's a bit of a mentor. He's been a big influence.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I got that tattooed on my back so that in the future, whenever I'm poor, and especially whenever I'm depressed, I remember you can write for free. You can make your art for free.
Yeah.
And you will feel good. It'll feel like agony crawling to the studio and putting your fingers on the keyboard and you go, oh, I don't want to do this. 10 minutes in, you'll be in the zone. You'll be flowing. And it'll start to feel good. And then a couple of months down the track, an editor or a publisher or a fan or an audience will say, hey, thank you for your artwork. I really loved that. I loved your story.
Yeah.
I remember where I said it's like a nice drug that no one can criticize you for. That's what you get.
Yeah.
You get that nice drug release. And you go, cool, thank you. All this hard work that I put in, yes, it has saved my life a little bit. It's given me esteem. It's given me mana. It's given me self-respect. And I've made other people happy with my art. So that's why you should keep making art.
So, and art saves lives is art in general. You really could apply that term to anyone that has any type of creative output in any way, shape, or form.
And it keeps you from causing harm to other people.
Yeah.
I like to think.
Yeah. You'd hope so. You'd hope so, which is great.
Because how many people do we know they've been like a thug or a druggie or abusive or a loser, and then they've started creating art and it stopped all the bad behavior?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's cool. Michael Botur, thank you so much for coming in and sitting down with us today. A true blessing. And even though I've known you personally for a number of years now, it's still so much to learn about you that I got from today. So from me to you, thank you so much for coming in again. I really do appreciate it.
I get inspired every week by people who have taken more artistic risks than me, and I like to pass it on. And dude, Mark, respect to you, man. You've taken lots of artistic risks in your life too.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We channel it through us, we pass it on.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for coming. Yeah, wow. Michael Botur, man. What a hugely talented guy. I'm completely blown away by what he's just talked about.
Yeah, for sure. And it's amazing just to see, you can really see his mind ticking when he's talking. You can see him working right to the depths of his knowledge to kind of bring out what he really wants to say. And and
just I think how his mind works in general. Like for me, there were times where I'll ask him a question and he'll kind of go through and he'll talk about it, and then it'll be like, okay, cool, well, we'll ask the next question. He goes, well, let's just go back for just a second. It's like, oh my God, you're going to add to what you've already given us. It was just such a, I felt hugely honoured for him to just be as unbelievably giving as he was. And I know I say that about pretty much all the podcasts. But even for a guy 3 years deep into being mates, he was very transparent tonight. Yeah, he was. He was incredibly transparent and, not afraid to hold back either.
No.
He was really...
kind of spoke his mind a bit.
He did.
He kind of is like that with his, as I said earlier, his like improv background and stuff. He's very good at drawing that stuff off the top and kind of not really caring too much about what he says as well. So like, it's really cool to see.
And I've seen him do his slam poetry a couple of times from... his book, which is Loudmouth. That title suits it incredibly well. Because he is. There's
For sure.
there's not a lot of filter. If it's in here, it's just coming out. Not a lot of gateway going on. And I have a huge respect for him. And his ability to just get information out. So for me, that was really, really cool. And such a really good get as well. A good get for he's published internationally. He's really proactive on the poetry and writer scene in Northland as well. He's published articles in the Listener this year as well. So
in the Herald, hasn't he?
No, maybe. I'm not
sure.
I know that when he published an article in the Listener about the Kiwis were getting deported from Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he actually wrote that article and took those photos. It was a brilliant article.
And that's a good take as well, because it does happen.
Absolutely it does. So, yeah, there was just so much there from Mike. Where can the listeners and viewers find the podcast?
The podcast, so I'll go back to my notes here.
As you do.
So on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram for our visuals, you can find us at the Northland Artist Conversation. For audio, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts as the Northland Artist Conversation. And if you want to email us, if you're a creative out there and you want to get in touch, want to do a podcast with us, hit us up on email at hello@northlandartistconversation.co.nz.
Yeah, absolutely. Creatives of any type, any genre, we don't discriminate.
No,
we don't care. We'd love to hear from you. And we also have Patreon as well. Patreon is something a little bit special. You have like YouTube where you can, what is it they say, like, share and subscribe.
Yeah.
And then you can like and comment on Facebook and all of that sort of stuff as well. But what Patreon does is it allows you to contribute a little bit more to the podcast. So we have 2 tiers set up. We have the first tier, which is a cup of coffee. And what that is it's $5 a month. You're donating, and that supports us in a nice little way. It's very cool. The second one we have is called Coffee Addict, and that is $20 a month. And what that'll do is that'll give you a couple of little extra perks that the $5 tier won't get. I'd also like to stress that you have to select a currency, and it traditionally defaults to American, which is, when it says $5 American, it is definitely not $5 New Zealand. So I set it as Australian because that's the closest currency I can. So if it's like $5, it might be like $6 or something like that. But it is the absolute closest that we can get, because we 100% respect if people are wanting to support us in that way, and we just want to be fair and reasonable.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Man, we've got some really, really, really big podcasts lined up.
Yeah.
But then we've also got some really amazing guests.
Yeah.
This podcast is going to be coming out soon.
Yeah, it's going to be epic, man.
It will be. It will be. Like we had a huge podcast recorded the night before we recorded Mike's.
Yep.
And then we've got another one that we've just recorded as well, and that's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Then we've got some amazing artists, and I think that for end of July, we've got 2 very, very high profile people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of locals are going to want to watch one of them in particular.
I think they will as well. So stay tuned. It's a really good idea to just keep us in your Facebook feed, in your Instagram feed. Keep checking us on YouTube, because you're going to want to see this. And this could be one of the longer podcasts as well, because I think there's going to be a lot to cover.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
So stick around, guys. Thank you for tuning in, watching us, listening to us. Really appreciate it. Straight down the main camera. My name is Mark Kelly.
And I'm Andrew McKenzie.
Thank you for sticking around and checking us out, the Northland Artist Conversation. We'll see you soon.